Horn of Africa security analyst and senior advocate at Refugees International, Abdullahi Boru Halakhe, joins us now for more. Abdullahi, good evening. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. The African Union has congratulated President Samia Hassan on her election. Meanwhile, the SADC election observer mission had said this election does not meet the standard of free, fair and credible. Meanwhile, she's been sworn in and inaugurated. 98% is the vote margin that had been claimed as the victory on her part there. Does this leave Tanzanian democracy in a credibility crisis?
Thank you so much for having me. I think it's not just Tanzania. I think from the early times, after the end of the Cold War, when African countries removed the provision for just one single party to have a multi-party election, democracy, where election is necessary but not sufficient condition, has been doing fairly well. But I think towards the 2000s, we've started seeing some of those trends. And Tanzania, you've seen it this week, and last week it was in Cameroon. I think what we are being confronted with is the reality that we are seeing a significant erosion of democracy across the continent. But in Tanzania's case, it is very, very telling because this party that Samia Suluhu Hassan won with, its name in English is the Party of Revolution. It is a revolutionary party that Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, arguably after Ghanaian President Nkrumah, he's arguably one of the giants of African liberation movement, and Southern African countries can attest to this, that his party is so afraid of the people it had to shut down internet, that its party has won by over 90%, but the ceremony of inaugurating that president was held away from the public. That is all you need to know.
If democracy or if election is a necessary but not a sufficient condition for democratizing to exist, as you had framed it over there, does that mean that Tanzania has for a while not had a credible democracy?
It has a fledgling democracy, but this is a significant step backwards. If the government is afraid of its citizen, that government then it doesn't enjoy the legitimacy. It is an election. Why are the police going to be involved other than just providing citizens with security to go and vote? Why are the opposition leaders in court? The court cases can continue in jail. The court cases can continue going on, but Tundu Lissu and his party should be allowed to participate in that election. We've seen in countries around the continent, particularly in East Africa, in the case of Uganda, where the opposition leader is also in detention for treason charges. Treason charges were charges that used to be brought by colonial governments. Treason charges were charges that we used to see them during the one-party political states on the continent. This is very retrogressive. It just shows you again, the party of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, the giant of African liberation movement, the president who left power voluntarily, his party is forcing down the throat of Tanzanians, a president that potentially is not liked by the Tanzanians.
Let's then talk about the threat of the distrust and mistrust there. Democracy has a normative relationship with trust for it to carry any sort of credibility and legitimacy. Otherwise, it's vulnerable to either a coup, as we've seen to be normal across the African continent, and or civil unrest that could turn into a civil uprising. Is Tanzania vulnerable to any of that at the moment?
Potentially not, because of what their former presidents have done. Tanzania is arguably one of the most cohesive countries, despite having over 100 ethnic groups. Tanzanians are arguably some of the most proudest people that you'll ever meet. They love their country. They're very patriotic, even after these many years since independence. But I think what we are beginning to see is the level of legitimate and trust deficit between the Tanzanian leadership and the Tanzanian public. They're saying, we want change, but CCM says we want continuity. continuity is not in and of itself a bad thing, but come and contest based on your ideas, based on your programs, based on you delivering on those programs. But I don't think the current CCM have got the courage of their conviction to either deliver on their promises or to meet the citizens where they are and for them to seek their mandate. This is just pure window dressing.
Yeah. Patriotism can be quite brittle and fragile if not respected by those who ought to respect it. But even if it is an absolute, right, it is a double-edged sword, because it might be on the exact premise of that legitimacy or that patriotism that citizens may say, wait, our state has been stolen for us, our will is not reflected, and that could be what spurs an uprising, as we've seen, for instance, happen in Madagascar quite recently. What is it that the presidency, at least the term of President Samia Hassan, can do to establish and project any sort of legitimacy and credibility in an attempt at projecting the will of the people?
I think she will have a lot of work. It's not just her, but the people surrounding her. It's not just her, it's the party. From the federal level to the sub-national level. There's a lot of work to be done. It is not very often you see Tanzanians on the streets demonstrating. I think I said at the top that there is a legitimate, there is an erosion of democracy across the continent.
Oh, seems like we have lost Abdullahi Boru Halakhe there.